The calls to suspend the IPL on moral grounds have been going on for the last several days. In fact, there are many PILs in various courts right now saying that the IPL should not have been playing when India was undergoing such a huge and massive COVID crisis. But nevertheless, the IPL had to be suspended. This time, though, because of various participants testing positive. Some players, some support staff members of the IPL have tested positive for COVID-19. This has happened in various teams, and then came the decision earlier today that the IPL will be suspended. There are some reports, though, that they could continue they could look at continuing the rest of the tournament because only about half is done by the end of the year. Utkarsh Chaturvedi, who's been tracking the story all day, gets us this report.
So the debate which was really happening before this was about that should IPL happen given whatever is happening outside the bio bubble or outside the stadium. But the decision was taken when inside the stadiums and the players got really infected. Now, BCCI keeps maintaining this, all the teams are maintaining this. There was no bio bubble breach which happened. And despite of that, it happened that there are many cases, and it's not only a single case. Remember that yesterday was the first case which came in with Kolkata Knight Riders, with Sandeep Warrior and Varun Chakravarti. But then it kind of continued because you had Delhi Capitals, Amit Mishra testing positive for COVID-19. Then you have the Hyderabad Sandeep Sharma posting positive for COVID-19. In Chennai Super Kings, a couple of team members of the staff, team staff, was tested positive, and that is when really the decision was taken that the IPL needs to be suspended. Now, what we have been told is that there can be a possibility, that's a very far-fetched possibility as we speak, that the remainder of the season might be completed once situation gets over, once the situation gets better. But then again, speaking about a lot of possibilities here, we have been told categorically that this will not happen, say, in a week or a month or so. This will take some time. But what happens to the contracts at this point of time? The contracts, at least for today, remains as they are. If there is a decision which is being taken later on that IPL will not be happening and this is cancelled, then there will be a talk of what happens to all the contracts and sponsorships. But as we speak, all the contracts remain in place. Obviously, there will be a lot of other rounds of meetings which will be taking place going ahead of what needs to happen with IPL, when does the IPL needs to happen, whether it needs to happen in the remainder of the season. So a lot of meetings still remaining, but as of now, for all the cricket lovers, as we speak, the IPL stands suspended.
Okay, Vivek Singh, co-founder and joint MD of Procam, joins us on the show this evening. Pleased to welcome Ayaz, Memon, a senior sports journalist, and K Sriniwas Rao, the cricket editor of the Times of India. Thank you, gentlemen, for speaking with us, and great to have you on the show. Mr. Memon, let me start by getting your take. Is this pointing out to lapses in the way the IPL was being conducted in the middle of a second wave? Obviously, they didn't know it perhaps when they started the tournament, but it became fairly apparent as the tournament proceeded. And the second part of what we're trying to say, could they have called it off earlier itself? When many people were asking, is it right to play a live sport in the middle of such a huge crisis?
Tamanna, there are, several aspects in the question. One is, of course, that, I think the BCCI should have been more clued in, more plugged in as to what the COVID situation in the country is. I know that, everybody goes by what the central government was thinking, and therefore it was lulled into some kind of false sense of security, because we had the series against England which went off successfully right till the end of March, and yet there was enough indication that some second tsunami wave is, building up. But remember, cricket is such a passion in India. This was election season. Nobody wants to mess around with the IPL because it is so popular. Not even the state governments. It's not just the central government. Nobody said from Maharashtra or from Bengal, don't have the matches here, because this could affect our people. So that's one thing which happened. I think in hindsight, clearly, they could have looked at the UAE to play a second season there, because anyway there were no crowds at the ground at the stadium. It was for television audiences only. The biosecure bubble there was easier to manage because the distances you travel by bus, it's about 2 hours from one emirate to the other at the most. Travel is one of the issues which has perhaps caused the problem now. Going from Chennai to Delhi or Mumbai to Ahmedabad or something like that. Because now players are coming from all teams. It's not just one particular team which has been affected. So obviously there's been a breach of the biosecure bubble. Whether it should have been called off earlier on moral and ethical grounds, look, there's a macabre dance of death going on the outside. So obviously it's an issue which is to be taken very seriously. But there was also the other point of view that there is some relief coming from the IPL because it is being played. It's offering jobs to about 100,000 people, not just the cricketers, but in the ecosystem. But at the end of the day, you've been felled by the virus. It's the debate. I think if the tournament had been played elsewhere, the debate also wouldn't have been as vociferous as it was, or as protected, because it's been going on since the start of the tournament till now.
No, it's also if there could have been a clearer and bigger gesture on behalf of the organizers of the IPL, namely the BCCI, because the fact is that they made, as per reports, about 4,000 crores last year with the tournament in Dubai. They're set to lose about 2,000 to 2,200 crores right now. Sponsors could pull out, so teams as well will lose money from there. So will the BCCI. Vivek Singh, so two parts. One is that could they have earlier said, okay, we're continuing the IPL, probably we will not do it in India, we'll do it in the UAE or some other place like they did last year, and then say that we are earmarking a proportion of everything we make for those who are suffering from COVID-19. I mean, it seemed obscene at some point to have cheering on for the IPL in the same city where people are dying in queues.
Tamanna, first of all, thank you for having me on the India Development Debate. And you always pick the hottest topic for the day. So thank you for that. No question. First of all, hats off to the BCCI and the IPL Governing Council for putting it on the road. For whatever it's worth, they put it on the road. They created a bio bubble. And we had several matches. It gave us respite in the evenings and we enjoyed the cricket. But yes, there is no question. They could have been much more sensitive to the ground situation, to the entire voices of the people. The IPL chairman, Vijay is one of the most astute administrators in India. He's a friend. The IPL Governing Council. They could have been much more sensitive. And, this was coming, Tamanna. I mean, we all saw it coming a long way off. How long can you, like Ayaz very correctly said, how long can you maintain a bio bubble when this kind of movement is there? And then that too in India. So yes, they would have those questions that they would have to answer. The 10th of February is when the second wave really hit us. That gave them time to do some foresight and planning. So yeah, there are some big questions, that they probably need to answer, and they probably would answer amongst themselves.
I remember last year this time when the conversation was first about whether the IPL would be called off, and then when the IPL moved to the UAE, the conversation was about why could we have not done something like that here? Mr. Sriniwas Rao, have we answered that question for ourselves? That it was safer off in the United Arab Emirates or outside the country, and a lot of people felt bad about it, that why couldn't the Indian Premier League take place in India? But we've seen what's happened this time round, haven't we?
You have to understand a primary factor here. Cricket is all about emotions. But IPL is not just about cricket. It's about cricket as much as it's about business. And when it comes to business, business is not about emotions. So it's about, the bottom line. As far as moving the IPL to, as Ayaz said, moving it to UAE, that should have been the first call to be taken here. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Now, considering that you did not want to move it to UAE, why did you not want to move it to UAE? Because you wanted to send out the message that if we are moving the IPL to UAE, then we are not very sure whether we can host the World Cup, World T20 in October, November in India. So we wanted to give out that message that no, we are good enough to host the World T20 in India. And that is why we are also going to host the IPL in India. So we were crossing a bridge actually before getting there. So all right, you can come to a decision that you want to host it in India. Why did you not host it in one single city? There was no need to host it in multiple cities. So what was the reason? The reason given was that, we don't want to give one team the advantage of playing at home, which is no home advantage. In IPL, like this cricket, home advantage is not about having crowds. And since they had already decided that there are going to be no crowds, which meant that there would be no home advantage. So it was a no-brainer that they should have kept the entire IPL in Mumbai or between Mumbai and Pune. See, what worked in UAE? What worked in UAE essentially was that they did not do air travel. Simple. They traveled by road. That is the one thing that they could have planned here in Mumbai, planned it accordingly. And as far as both what Vivek and Ayaz has pointed out about this thing, whatever is happening outside of the bubble and all, yes, it's a very dystopian circus. What is happening inside is that players are locked inside a safe and secure bio bubble, whereas outside, you have people in hospital lobbies and all of the roads who are like struggling for basic amenities. I completely understand how dystopian it is, but you have to also look at it that IPL is nothing but purely business, and which means a lot of livelihoods depend on it. Now, are we not watching entertainment, are we not watching OTT platforms? We are watching movies that are coming out on Netflix. We are watching a lot of stuff that is coming out on Amazon Prime. This was something similar. They should have organized it properly. For all you know, if we wouldn't have had these cases sprouting in the last 48 to 72 hours, you and me wouldn't be having this discussion. Another thing I would like to add here is that the BCCI standard operating procedures for IPL 2021 was full of errors as compared to their own standard operating procedures for IPL 2020. They did not do the same things correctly what they had done last year in the IPL.
Mr. Rao, the argument that you're talking about is one that I have been having actually in my home for the last many days, that if you can watch a movie in the evening to take your mind off what you've seen through the day, then why can't someone else watch the IPL? The question is that, is it just entertainment? Is the sport not really completely grounded in the adoring fans, which are Indians who are in distress right now? And can you not acknowledge that distress in a more cognizant and really clear, concrete manner? Can you not say that, okay, if BCCI makes 4,000 crores out of it, we'll give an X amount for COVID relief? I mean, all of that didn't happen, which was why it really seemed a little strange. But let me ask you, Mr. Rao, what happens now to the T20 World Cup? You talked about how the need to hold the tournament in India was also felt because you had to set a precedent for the World Cup, the T20 World Cup in October. So is that now on shaky ground, looking at what's happened to IPL?
We don't know. The World Cup is 5 months away from now. We don't know what is in store for us 4 days from now, 4 weeks from now. We can't be talking about something which is 4.5 months from now, 5 months from now. People want to jump the gun on almost everything. In IPL, for example, when was it the right time to call it off? You tell me, in life, we all of us face situations from time and again where our basic mood question on multiple things in life that we face is about when is the right time to do something, when is the right time to not do something. That is what life is all about. So to answer that very question in the same length, IPL, well, you can argue for all, you can go on saying that BCCI extended it a little more than they should have called it off earlier, right? The same is with the T20 World Cup. Should the BCCI take a call right now and say that, listen, we expect a third wave to happen and we cannot host the T20 World Cup? We are sending out a message which will have serious consequences. Now, this is not just BCCI here. When BCCI makes a statement, it is making a statement on behalf of the people of this country, on behalf of the state governments of this country, on behalf of the central governments of this country. So do you think really BCCI is in a position to take those multiple calls? Because again, it's the larger aspect of, what India wants, what India deserves, what India is capable of. All those things come into play. So let's just stick to the very basic point here. I believe that we need to wait for the until mid-May to see what does the UK government do with the World Test Championship that is scheduled in England next month? Let us say the Indian team actually goes there and England gives permission for India to travel to England to play the World Test Championship. Then they are locked in England for the next 3 months. After that, when they come back to India, that is when you take a call on what this whole scenario is in India. And then you move forward to figuring out whether World Test Championship, World T20 should be played in India or UAE. Shifting a machinery doesn't take much time. In 2009, if you see Lalit Modi shifted the IPL from India to South Africa in less than 2 weeks. In 2014, BCCI did the same. Last year, in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a national lockdown, the BCCI shifted an entire league from one country to another. So logistics, operations, these are not the concern here. Shifting a tournament, no issues. But let's get there first. Let's try and see where we are heading in the next 4 to 5 months. We don't know what is...
No, but okay, Vivek Singh, yeah. I know, I get your point. Let me get Vivek Singh in. K Sriniwas Rao says, we don't know what's happening in the next 4 days. How can we plan what's happening in the next 4 months? Do large cricket tournaments work on, those kind of short time lags? Wouldn't you need to be prepared for what is coming next? And do we need to relook at how we are doing these sporting tournaments at a time when there is so much uncertainty in the world? I mean, we're just looking at it from the point of view of a high moral ground that BCCI could have taken, IPL could have been taking. But look at what the cricketers are going through. All of the teams are going through. Perhaps they also want to be with their families. Some cricketers pulled out because they had cases in their families and they'd rather spend their time with their families right now.
Yes. Srinivas makes a point when he says that there is so much uncertainty. But that's where the promoter takes the call. Let's not romanticize this. People of India and the messaging to India. That's all romanticizing. The promoter takes the call. It's BCCI who's the promoter. They have to take the call, keeping the people's larger sentiments in question and keeping BCCI in question. There is no romanticizing here. It's their call. They can take a call left, center, right. So let's make it simple. It's BCCI's call. What that call should be, I can't opine on it right now. Should it be taken soon? Yes, because if you wait till July, August, then contractual commitments come in, television commitments come in, people don't know where to put the money, what to do. Take the call. Okay, wait till June. This is supposed to peak out and end out by June. Let's wait till June, but take the call well in advance. The more a promoter stretches the call, it becomes more and more complicated and difficult. So it's not a game you can play. Oh, let's see in July
Ayaz,
what happens in July, what happens in August.
Yeah. Exactly, because there's so much at stake. Ayaz, can you take us through what all is at stake? I mean, we look at it on the face of it and we know that maybe sponsors are figuring out what to do. Half the tournament has been done, the other half hasn't. Why would they hang around? Can they go back on what they have promised as per their contract? Because there has been this disruption. What happens to teams? What happens to player contracts? What are the sort of ripple effects that we'll see?
Well, the mother concept, which is there, we all know from the pandemic, when it started, is force majeure. So everything is going to be plugged into that, including the BCCI. I mean, BCCI won't have a tournament like this, the second one, without adequate insurance. And likewise, all the franchises and so on. The players, as Srinivas mentioned, maybe if the tournament resumes, they'll be paid their full money. But if they're not, then it'll be on a pro rata basis according to the matches played. Because this is a pandemic situation, the players will also have to understand. I think the larger point, there are two aspects. One is that could the cricketers or the BCCI have done something different at this point in time? I think so. Whether you play in UAE or here, given the scale and the nature of the tragedy, there were two important things that could have been done. One is the messaging. Some of these players had emerged from COVID. What does it take to have them on a television screen speaking for 4-5 minutes about their experiences, what they did, what the Aam Aadmi should do, why it's important to take a vaccination, etc., etc. The other is the monetary aspect. Because cricket is so high profile, once the messaging gets through, people also start following what these role models say. I mean, you could have raised money through memorabilia. A Virat Kohli bat signed and would have fetched money which goes into a fund which can be used for, it's not charity, but it's for relief fund. Likewise, I'm just thinking aloud, I mean, you've got a prize money for the entire tournament. And this is a very hefty prize money. If I'm not mistaken, it's 11 or 12 or 15 crore or whatever it is. Why can't 10% of that be announced towards relief fund, etc.? So, I mean, those things could have been done. The other part is, of course, while Srinivas mentions that nobody knows what tomorrow holds, which is true, but it does not mean that you remain oblivious to what is happening. You have to have some scientific approach to a problem. Tomorrow, if Japan says we are ready and we want to have the Olympics, the IOC doesn't say, come on, we are all ready and go and start having the Olympics there. They are making inquiries. They are going there and making their own, investigations into how safe it is because they're getting the rest of the world to come in there. So it's a kind of a, compatibility issue. You can't take a position that, we've conquered everything. We don't care about the second wave or third wave. We are the champions of the world, so hum log khelenge. You cannot approach it like that. I think this is going to be the big blow. When we talk of the World T20, players, countries are wary about what India is putting out as what they think is expertise. That is the blow we've suffered. The credibility is about our expertise. That we took our eyes off the ball. We didn't even realize that there was a second wave coming. That was the problem. And everything else follows, the IPL played here.
And when it was screaming at you in the... Yeah. Exactly, and when it was screaming at you in the face, you chose to be oblivious to it. Very good point there, Ayaz, about whether cricketers could have done some ads in masks, telling people to, be safe, dedicate some of their memorabilia, raise money for COVID-19, at least seem like you're aware of what is happening around you. Just one more question, Mr. Rao. Coming to the point of when this can be moved to, some are saying September, some are saying will it be this year, next year, in the country, out the country. But aren't the bulk of Indian cricketers really going to be tied up with a very hectic schedule, a very hectic cricketing schedule through the rest of the year? Do you think there will be space for reschedulement of the IPL, and will the rest of this calendar also get impacted with the second wave?
So, yes, cricketers, yes, it's a very hectic season. There's no doubt about it. But then cricketers are used to it. At the end of the day, they're professionals. They know where they're coming from. They really, I can tell you properly, they didn't have any problems. 90% of them did not have any problems staying inside the bio bubble. They knew exactly what they were doing. And they knew that this is the profession that they are in. So let's keep that aside. Rescheduling of IPL, can that happen? Well, there are multiple ways to tweak it, as Ayaz mentioned about, pro rata payments, pro rata adjustments of, because it's all about the number of matches that are played. Going forward, you never know what the BCCI can actually do is, let's say they decide, I'm just giving an example. What the BCCI does is probably they take the leading 4 teams right now according to the points table, and they take them to UAE in the month of September and say, let's finish this off and let's have a 4-team knockout championship and conclude the tournament for this year. Let's say they get a 15-day window. If the broadcaster star is in agreement to this, then let's say the BCCI says, okay, let's cram 30 matches in 15 days. There are 31 matches left. So there are multiple options if they want to pull it off. Now, the questions are not just about the window. The question is about what is going to be the scenario in UAE when we get to, June, July, August, September. Whether India will be in a position to travel outside of the country. As you know, right now, there is a ban. We don't know what is going to be the scene after July, August, apparently when the so-called third wave hits us. So are we going to be in a position to travel? Are we going to be in a position to, invite overseas players to come and play for the franchisees there? Because remember, the IPL is almost...
Exactly.
If you remove the overseas players, then it is Mustaq Ali. It's not IPL. So, you have to be very careful about considering all these aspects before you arrive at any...
So there's a lot up in the air.
So right now, what I can tell you,
there's a lot up in the air. You have to ask yourself if these overseas player,
franchisees are still trying to figure out how to send these players home. So we have to still wait and watch how we are going to call them back. First, let them go home, and that in itself is a logistical nightmare.
Exactly. Some will be stuck. Some will be stuck for some time because their countries have banned all incoming flights from India. Australia says they'll put you in jail for 5 years if you've traveled from India. So all of these players are stuck. They first have to go back home and then you have to convince them to come back. And that, your infections are in control and your bio bubble is truly secure. So big, tough times ahead. But I want to thank all of you for coming in with your views. And bringing some clarity to this very important issue. And we'll also play out for you some of the reactions we've got through the day from the BCCI, from the organizers, from the sponsors, and from the team owners.